Hello everyone, we have music now, isn't that exciting? Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, shorter words, recorded videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my behind-the-scenes DMLA live stream, Crafting the Golden Vault, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Keys from the Golden Vault. If you're playing characters, I don't know where our characters are, but if you are my players, then this video is not meant for you, and will be full of spoilers. The rest of you, of course, are always welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday, starting very soon with this campaign. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20 for streaming. I use OBS Studio. So currently the schedule is, I think, we should be able to finish Shadowgate this Friday. Fingers crossed, because they didn't make quite as much progress as I thought they would last week, or in this session last week. And then we're looking at doing session 0 next week on the 15th. So we've got this pre-campaign prep stream tonight, and we've got one next week. And then we pretty much have to directly start preparing for our actual session 1 session. I guess I could prep for Prelude stuff too, which we can talk about that also, what we want to do for the Preludes, because I really did like how those of you who have watched or played in my Dragonlance campaign, I really enjoyed doing the Prelude section there. The book honestly had a great little Prelude part where the players have these mini little events that happen, and they even in that particular book they divide them up between certain kind of classes, I guess, or archetypes, and it gives them a nice little connection to the world and gives them a brief chance to do a thing. Now I condensed that quite a bit, because some of them were like full combat encounters, and others I was like, no, let's just make like a single skill check for everybody. But basically doing some kind of interactive play during session 0 to really set the table, I thought was really fun. So I might look at trying and organize something like that, but we'll see how it works. Because my players like spending a lot of time making their characters, which I love them for that. And obviously it's it's a big investment to do a campaign. We only do so many campaigns, and they take, gosh, between 1 and 2 years to play. So clearly that's a pretty big deal to do. So in part of this pre-campaign prep, we need to talk about my insane plans of combining all these things together. I've got some campaign ideas. Where are my notes at? Did I put those on a different screen? There they are. Okay, I do have those on a different screen. Let me grab these real quick. So hopefully you've all seen last week's live stream where first of all, I announced what the hell we're doing, which is Keys from the Golden Vault, and this is obviously a huge spoiler, so don't tell my players this. We're all going to keep mums the word, or try to keep mums the word on this, is that this is actually going to combine Keys from the Golden Vault and then transition into Vecna, Eve of Ruin, as the players realize they've been collecting a few things for the Vecna cultists and helping Vecnas basically rise to power. Ruh-roh. And then, of course, Vecna, Eve of Ruin's main quest is a series of fetching items from across the multiverse. And what are these players good at doing? Fetching items. So it's like the ultimate heist. Boom. I even had some more crazy ideas, which is during the scene where it's going to be a big fucking story scene, but when they finally turn over the Book of Vile Darkness, which they get from doing the Fire and Darkness, the final mission of Keys from the Golden Vault, I will probably have it be Vecna himself, because I hate it when you have these big bad villains and the players like never get to interact with them. That is so lame for a lot of these campaigns. I loved what Chris did with Ironwrath and Storm King's Thunder. I love what Strahd ends up becoming basically in Ravenloft, which does a good job of just being a character. And unfortunately, Vecna is one of those that's like they never interact with Vecna at all until the very end. I guess there's a little bit of that one moment maybe where there's a connection, which I will use at the end of the first chapter. So I thought, all right, well, let's have Vecna like actually show up and they turn the book over to him directly. And of course, I'll do some kind of bullshit shenanigans, recast time stop or something, which is the DM saying, no, sit down and listen to my cutscene, damn it. No, you don't get to do a thing. You get to sit and watch. So I was thinking like, all right, Vecna's going to kill their handler. He's going to like fucking burn their bastion down. Like it's going to be fucking crazy. And he's going to murder them all. And they're going to wake up in Planescape Because if you are familiar with the 5e Planescape adventure, which if you're not, you can go watch my review. I wasn't super positive on it. But the beginning of it is really good, where they wake up in the mortuary basement, straight up like Planescape Torment style, and they're trying to figure out why they ended up there, and they literally wake up on like the morgue essentially, and they have to go figure out like, okay, why are we here, and how do we fix ourselves in this certain circumstances. So I'm like, fuck, what a cool idea as like a hard campaign transition. Instead of jumping right to Vecna of Ruin, and instead of using the kind of bullshit like, oh, the wizards teleport you to their place by accident because they're trying to cast a wisp spell because Kaz is cosplaying as Mordenkainen, like that whole thing I thought was pretty lame. So instead, we can use elements of Planescape Torment, the adventure in 5th edition, the Turn of Fortune's Wheel, and then have the party end up there and basically play through kind of that first chapter. And then they will eventually meet up with the Fortune's Wheel casino and the Arcanoloth, and basically maybe turn that into their, because it's a crime boss like Yugoloth, which is fantastic. Like, just kind of go with all that theme, and then they can still do like and then the Planescape casino could become like their home base, and then they could go around and fetch the rods. That just all feels like it fits a hell of a lot better. And I haven't come up with it yet, but I also want to have a better role for Kaz, because I think his specific relationship with Vecna is so interesting, and I think that needs to be explored in some way. And it's just, I mean, he's technically used in Eve of Ruin, but like, not very, not as well as he could be, I guess, at least from a story point of view, for sure. So I'm still trying to figure out the details of that one, and I'm trying not, frankly, to come up with too much at the beginning, because then you run the risk of like, okay, all these things have to happen according to plan, and they got to play pretty linearly, and we got to get on the rail, that kind of thing. So I think as long as I get the main story beats in, and then things can evolve as we basically figure this thing out. So already that's a whole nother technically 5e campaign that I'm looking at involving, which is the bits of Planescape. So look at that one. Another thing I wanted to discuss is that something I will need to figure out. So all of that I won't have to even do for a long time, right? That's actually towards the end of the campaign. That's basically the end of our Keys in the Golden Vault campaign, is when I have to figure all that out. But I do want to seed stuff earlier, and for sure have that one, the first chapter of Eve of Ruin, around like level 7 or 8 or something. So it'll happen earlier than, I try to do some cool overlapping, so it's not just a hard turn necessarily, but I certainly want to do it for the first, months and months, and the first levels of our campaign. What I do need to figure out, though, is where are we setting the campaign, and who is their handler, and basically figure out what all the early Keys in the Golden Vault missions are, which I did kind of go over, in terms of which one I like. Do I need to go over those again, or do we remember which ones that I particularly liked? Thank you, Thomas. I'm going to transfer my players from Tomb Annihilation to Vecna. That would also be really good. That would work really, really well. In fact, I believe, Thomas, have you looked at the Doomed Forgotten Realms? Because I think that book has a cool thing where it ties the Soulmonger directly into Vecna's plans somehow. I forget the exact details of it. I mean, it kind of ties all the different 5e campaigns into it, but that one in particular I remember being quite interesting. So the handler in Keys is frankly not terribly interesting. Where is she under again? So again, unfortunately, I'm not using the Keys in the Golden Vault Roll20 module. I'm only using the add-ons. Campaign of Heists. I keep trying to look up this stuff, but it's never where I want it to be. She's just kind of some random clerk or something. The problem is, there she is, Mira over here. The problem with the Golden Vault and their whole thing is that it's just so poorly defined, and it's just, you can tell it's the designer saying, okay, your players are this badass heist crew, but it's painstakingly wants them to be the goody two shoes good guys. It's like, oh, but it's okay because you're basically like the Harper's kind of organization. They're super good. Their main base is on a plane of good. Like it's just like, yeah, you guys kind of do some gray area stuff, but it's all for the good. And then it's like, all right, miss me on all this shit. Like, you don't have to bend over backwards to be like, we're this benevolent organization. Because frankly, that's kind of sus, I would think. And I just don't think my players are going to respond very well to just this goody two shoes organization, frankly. So instead of that, I think, well, I'll tell you what I was inspired by directly. We're actually going to go to a different one to look at, which is, we're going to look at Waterdeep Dragon Heist for a second. Just a second. There is a certain part of Waterdeep Dragon Heist. It's in Chapter 2. And as I was reading through this mod, because I did read through it again, because I was like, all right, I want to see if, there's good material in here that I can use, because clearly there's got to be some overlap here. And I'm thinking I'm going to use Waterdeep as our location, at least for the first half, right? Because after that, it'll be crazy multiversal shit. But at least for the first 2 tiers of gameplay, I'm thinking Waterdeep. I guess it came down to either Waterdeep or Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate could be fun just because obviously me and a lot of my friends are playing through Baldur's Gate for the millionth time, Baldur's Gate 3. So we've got some familiarity with the city and the locations and stuff there. Although maybe that might be a disadvantage for me also, frankly. But Waterdeep just seems like a giant city, or it is a giant city, and a perfect opportunity to do a big, crime, heisty thing. And a lot of the locations I can just have, in and around Waterdeep without really changing too much. And also I can use any material from Waterdeep Dragon Heist and not, and kind of be in canon. Although, as you all know, being attached to the Forgotten Realms canon has never necessarily been a huge deal for me, and certainly not one for my players. So I was inspired by this section of Chapter 2 right here called Tiger's Eye. It's one of the locations in Troll Skull Alley, which is the cool kind of street where there's just a bunch of shops and stuff, but it's where the party can get their own home base, which I'm also inspired by for using as their bastion. So this is Tiger's Eye. This private detective's business is unremarkable on the outside. Its only distinguishing mark, an orange and black sign featuring a cat's eyes. Inside is a regal apartment dimly lit by flickering oil lamps. The door is locked. Visitors must knock or ring the bell before being let in. They are met by Vincent Trench. Fucking love this name. A human detective and the owner of the Tiger's Eye. He speaks concisely, dresses in a sharp suit, and smokes a slim pipe. I like this guy. Vincent is in fact a Rakshasa named Volantajar that always casts disguise self on itself before seeing visitors. Fuck yes. The Rakshasa has lived in Waterdeep for years, switching identities as often as needed to keep its true nature hidden. It has grown accustomed to living among mortals, and much to its own... By the way, I don't like how we're using its for creatures. Much to its own astonishment, is rather fond of Waterdeep and its citizens. Its can refer to the city. I'm okay with that, but I feel like Vincent would have better pronouns than its. So, what about this? What if we take this seemingly random, disguised, cool-ass Rakshasa detective who dresses in a sharp suit, smokes a slim pipe, and his name is fucking Vincent Trench. Sounds like a Quentin Tarantino character. And make that their Golden Vault handler. You know how much I love using and role-playing like non-human kind of monstrous characters, and the fact that this one is disguised is also amazing. This also lends itself towards the fact that this organization is multiversal and very powerful, and would be, have leadership that is also very powerful. And, just the fact that they're like a detective is amazing. So I think I don't know. I can't get this out of my head. Like, I'm already thinking about the voice is, what's that guy's name? Is an old like black and white film actor. Yeah, I don't remember. It's like in Hitchcock movies. I think he did the voice of Shere Khan, the Jungle Book movie. I'm gonna about IMDb real quick. I couldn't name it in one of those old movies, but maybe let's look up the old Jungle Book. Who did the voice of Shere Khan? George Sanders. Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Listen to okay, what let's see, was he in like Rebecca? Yeah, Rebecca. All About Eve. All About Eve is actually the movie I was thinking of. That's uh yeah, that's a great movie. Rebecca's the Hitchcock movie. I don't think All About Eve is. All About Eve is just a good movie. But yeah, I don't know, he's just a very cool, like what you think of like a film noir. Just a great soothing voice. I mean, you've probably heard Shere Khan. It's his fucking voice. Um, but how and funny enough, Tiger also for Rock Sasha. So there you go. That's my inspiration. So I love this character. I love the idea of having this character be the handler for the Golden Vault. For them, probably would refer to himself. Oh yeah, I could use there. Refer to themselves as Mr. Trench, maybe. I guess at that point he's identifying as male. I don't know if Rock Sasha have genders or not. I've never used a Rock Sasha. In fact, I just realized Rock Shas. Am I saying that wrong? I am saying that wrong. Rock Shasa, not Sasha. Sasha would be a fun name for a Rock Shasa, though. They're like the tiger demons, right? I've never used this. Yeah. Look at how fucking cool. He's even smoking a pipe in the fucking picture too. What a cool creature. It straight up can't be affected by or detected by spells of 6th level or lower unless it wishes to be. That's insane. So you can't detect thoughts. You can't like counterspell. Like what a cool freaking idea for a creature. And it's got dominate person, plane shift, true seeing, invisibility, suggestion, charm person. Like fuck, it's just so good for a smarmy boss character. I love this. I love everything about this. Interesting, they're actually fiends, so I guess they're like devils. Lawful evil. So, but perhaps one that's kind of, really enjoys, Waterdeep and its citizens and just, isn't in the whole, like, corrupting mortals thing, but instead, like, I don't want to have other mortals be too strong, and that's what I use my organization for. So, it kind of, I think, plays into the fact that my players aren't going to be into the altruistic, like, oh, we want to do good, and, because what was the original motto? Do good, no matter the cost. I did come up with a... See, did I write that down somewhere? A different motto, which thank you, Demnix, for writing down a bunch of them. But I wrote down that the motto, instead of do good whatever the cost, I said is a little wrong for what's right, the darkness before the light. Still pretty cheesy. But, I think it kind of paints the characters as more of a gray area. We can still be the anti-heroes, basically, that they always want to be. So I think I'm going to use Trench as their handler. And I think for their Prelude, what I'd like to do is, and I've already put together the player's primer and shared this with them, but say as part of their character building backstories, they have to be in trouble. We're starting at 3rd level, by the way. I don't know if I might have buried the lead on that one because... I think my players would fight me if I tried to do anything different, frankly, which is something we're gonna have to talk about because the first missions, which I want to run, Murkmire Malevolence and Stygian Gambit, are level 1 and 2. So already I'm gonna have to scale those up to make them more challenging for my level 3 freaking players. What was I talking about? Oh, for their preludes. So they're in trouble. And it's got to be like serious trouble with the law, basically. Whatever their law might be, whatever their situation is. And I even said in their primer, like, it could be that you did break the law and you just legitimately, whatever, you got caught or something happened. whether it was malicious on your part or you were part of a gang or whatever was going on, like you got in trouble, you're caught, and you're in trouble right now. Or it could be that maybe you are a perfectly straight and narrow law-abiding citizen, but maybe you got framed for something or you were falsely accused, so you're in trouble, but even it's not your fault, but it still doesn't really matter because you're in trouble, or maybe it's just that the corruption somewhere got you, or something. But so I'm trying to give my players some flexibility. You don't, in other words, you don't have to take like the criminal or charlatan backgrounds in order to be in trouble, I guess, in the end. Or something happened and you're in trouble. And the idea is, in the Prelude, I was thinking that this handler character, which would be Mr. Trench, would show up. I probably should take full advantage of the fact that it casts Disguise Self before seeing visitors, so it can be a different character that visits them each time. But I also like the idea that the character has a tell, like they are always dressed very nice. They always speak the same because it's just that's his voice. Maybe always smoking a pipe. I don't know if the pipe can actually change, like depending on the needs, I guess, of the character. Whether it's like a big pipe or like one of those small, thin, like cigarette holders or something. But basically, this character visited each of my players and offered them a way out of their predicament. And the way out was that they would join the Golden Vault. But he would do it in a very cool way, where he's like, I don't know, it basically says like, hey, do you want to be part of something more than this? You want to spend the rest of your life in squalor here and fighting against injustice or whatever else? Or he basically like tease them without really explaining what's going on. Be kind of mysterious about it. And then give them a key, a golden key, of course, and then leaves. And then that key, when they turn it into their cell or whatever else, it like, I don't know if it magically opens, maybe it just magically opens a thing, but it probably like teleports them, honestly, out of that situation and puts them in like Troll Skull Alley. And then that will lead them to his detective agency, I guess, where that's where the players will meet each other. Or some of them could be together, I guess. It doesn't, if they want to all be part of a team, they could do that. I guess that'd make my job a little easier. But I was thinking that wasn't necessary. They could meet each other in that session 0, and that will be the events that play. The only thing I don't necessarily have is it's a lot more story involved. It's not necessarily like interactive. I don't have a way of giving everybody like a skill check or something. Because it's this one thing that kind of needs to happen for everybody, which is you're visited by this one character who gives you an out. I guess maybe I could try to come up with like the problem is this is gonna be really hard for me to plan because they're literally gonna be building their characters in session 0 for the most part. So I may not know ahead of time what their problems are. Chris probably will because he's Mr. Shows up with 47 pages of backstory. But a lot of them won't have a lot for me to work with. So we'll have to come up with everything on the fly in session 0. And plus, because our character creation takes a while, it's also probably good if we don't spend I don't have I don't want this to be too big. In other words, this is probably going to be just a pretty quick, like just a little story bit, but it will help transition the characters, because that's always awkward too. It's like, well, you guys just all meet at a tavern randomly or whatever happens. Like, it always is tricky to find the diaspora of the party pre-party, I guess. Like, how do your characters know each other? Like, what are the connections? What is your motivation for joining this campaign other than we all want to play D&D together? Like, yeah, Mr. Pink, Mr. Brown, Orange for full Tarantino. That is definitely part of my inspiration there. I love that, Mr. Trench. That'd be great if the play. I would leave that to the players if they want to start naming their own characters with like code names and shit. That'd be hilarious. That'd be the other fun way, I guess, of doing an introduction. Would do like literally like Reservoir Dogs, with like at the end of a. Maybe like, and that's something, if they want to do it, they can. Or if it's like a heist went wrong and they're all in hot water, then that's really easy for me to do, because I can literally just have this character walk in on them. They all turn their guns or their crossbows, whatever, and he offers them all the way out. So if they all want to be already connected and already be a team together, we can certainly do that. If only some of them want to be, I always want to try to give my players those options, because I know some of them it's just tricky. If somebody is like, oh, I'm a naturey ranger who's been out of the city the whole time, and somebody else is like, I've been raised on the streets. Like it's like, all right, well, your characters doesn't really make sense. You would ever know each other necessarily or whatever. So I give them those kind of options. But that's my idea for a prelude anyway. Is just to use this character Trench as the handler. And unfortunately, the book really doesn't give you anything that I can really use very well for the Golden Vault itself. I mean, it's just not very interesting, unfortunately. I think I read it during our last stream. Undercover operatives monitor adventuring groups from major cities of the material plane. Operatives can be anybody. Once an adventuring group proves itself effective and virtuous. See, that's the part I'm getting rid of. They don't give a shit if you're virtuous. They just want you to make sure you get the job done. Basically, it's more responsible, which is, I guess, effective in a way. Are you responsible? Are you going to be decently loyal to the group? An operative approaches the characters to offer Golden Vault membership. Should the group accept, its members join the ranks of the Golden Vault. The person who invited them becomes their handler for future missions. So that would be that Vincent Trench character from Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Which, again, that'll be a cool thing that the characters will be like, I'll have to decide, do I want to have... So that's another question, I guess. So obviously, if I'm appearing to the characters as a different character, but clearly role-playing them as the same character, and my players are kind of, metagaming-wise getting onto that fact. Once they meet this character, then who do they look like? Who does he look like to them? I guess does he look at just his Vincent Trench persona, which is just a human? And then everybody's going to have questions. They're like, well, wait a minute, you were like a Dragonborn to me, or you were a Tiefling or something. Like, it could have been different each time. If I want to go there, or I could have him appear as just, I could really bury the lead and just have him appear as his normal human alter ego. And then it would be, I guess, more of a shock if they just try to do anything with him and he's in fact reveals himself to be or we could make it, if we really want to bury the lead on what he is, maybe we could wait all the way until we get to that last cutscene where we transition to Eve of Ruin and there's a big battle and he sheds his form to try to actually fight off Vecna for the characters and he gets annihilated as a freaking Rakshasa. Rakshasas have one weird trait. Give all the forms the same thing. So I did read that. He has like a physical deformity. Like he has his thumbs on the other side of his left hand or something. Yeah. Yeah, what can I use? I was going to have him just always be dressed in a suit and smoking, but I guess that's not a physical deformity, technically. So you think it's better to have him just appear as one? So you think I'm being too cute and clever, basically, by having him switch to different disguised selves with people? It would be fun, but then they would immediately give the game away, right? Because they would at least be like, okay, well, what is your deal? Because I met you as somebody else, and then they might think, I don't know. I mean, they don't. The only thing is they don't necessarily would immediately go Rakshasa, and plus for metagaming, my players don't know what the fuck that is. I think for the most part. They would just assume, okay, well, he's a mage or he's a doppelganger or something that can shapeshift around. Yeah, maybe an adult dragon could do that. Like they would have some idea that there's obviously some magical influence there. And then if they tried to cast like detect thoughts or something, and then it would just be immune, they'd be like, all right, he is definitely something else. So it would still, that part of it would still be a secret. But it would give the game away that he is something that's not human. Versus if I just have his human form show up and help everybody, and then there might not be a question about it, unless they do try to get physical with him or something. And he would try to hide that as much as he can just for funsies, I guess. I don't know why he just tries to... Does it even mention like why he hides himself necessarily? Just says he's lived in Waterdeep for years. Okay, switching identities as often as needed to keep his true nature hidden. So maybe he just thinks that's how he lives in the city now, is just trying to hide who he is. I might need to come up with a whole thing for this character because now I'm really excited about it. Vincent Trench. I fucking love that name. Just have him tell them he appeared different to them, each of them using magic in case they refused. His bottom teeth are on the top and top on the bottom. Yeah, the physical form thing is always kind of weird, but I guess I should come up with something. We'll figure it out in question. Have him wear the same amulet in each persona, and that would imply that the amulet is what is changing his image and protecting his mind. Yeah, could be like some kind of magic item, jewelry thing. That's true. I mean, because what is it? You have like a hat of disguise. I mean, that could transform you also. And if they ask, you could just be like, I possess many magical talents that help me get around the city, basically. I possess many magical talents that help me get about the city without skulking like a rat. I'm being too, I need to work on that voice. It needs to be smoother. Skulking like a rat. They track him to his office or something, give them a reason to. Well, I think he's going to invite them to his office, basically. He's going to give them an out, and then they can appear at his office, which... So the other thing I'm thinking is, obviously, I would love to reward them with Troll Skull Alley, because I do like that part of Dragon Heist, and I don't think it's a shock to say that that's probably what eventually inspired the whole Bastion system. Where's Troll Skull? Or yeah, here it is, Manor. Sorry, did I say Alley? I meant Troll Skull Manor. I would like to reward them with Troll Skull Manor, which they get very early in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. They end up doing a quest for Volo, helping his friend out. And honestly, the more I read about this, the less I'm probably going to end up using this overarching plot, because it is kind of really heavily tied to Dragon Heist. And I'd rather just kind of do the mission of the week thing, which was the whole point of Keys in the Golden Vault. But I like the fact that the players would get a chance to have a home base. However, the Bastion system technically doesn't unlock until level 5. So maybe the players are just kind of working outside of Trench's detective agency for the first couple missions. And then that can be kind of a fun between mission thing, is Trench is like, hey, I purchased like one of their quest rewards can be like, I want you out of my detective office. You guys are getting too big for your britches. And I've purchased this manor just down the street, literally like almost across the street from his office, I think. And that's Troll Skull Manor, which is, I think is it just a tavern, basically? I guess it's a whole inn. It's got bedrooms, library and study, wine cellar, big old tap room. Yeah, it's kind of an inn, I guess. Which is a pretty cool home base to have. And I think there's a whole system for the players can like open it up, and there's a poltergeist who's the bartender, I think. Tavern's previous barkeep, half-elf named a Leaf. Leaf? Which would be pretty fun. He's like, yeah, I bought it because it's cheap. Everybody thinks it's haunted, but I'm sure you don't have a problem with it. I mean, hell, you could even turn that into like a half-session little like side venture there, too. Drink whiskey, neat, and chain smoke unfiltered cigarettes, and the voice will come. Oh, that's commitment. Chris is the whiskey drinker. I am not. I drink rum and coke, so that's about all I can do. Well, I do like tequila and vodka, I guess, but whiskey is, so fucking sour and strong. Oh, that whiskey like smell too. Oh my god. It's so bad. Just makes my eyes water just thinking about it. Oh. So yeah, I've written that down. Basically, I think that's gonna happen with the Waterdeep setting. Vincent Trench as a detective. Not quite sure how I want to do the disguise self thing. If I want to tip the cap on that and say like, yeah, this character is supernatural or has magic abilities or has magic items that is allowing them to use disguise self. And then what is Trench's motivation? Mysterious still, probably, but he's got ties to this organization called Golden Vault. maybe his last crew got killed, or maybe he's just starting to get into this. Like, I don't know why he's only just started doing this. Like, I don't have a good. The problem is Keys from Golden Vault doesn't have an overarching quest, I guess, to involve the party. It really is like a, hey, here's this mission, here's this mission, here's this mission. So like, why would he bring them together now? I don't know. Maybe he's just looking to franchise this. Maybe there's just too many things. That's the whole thing. Is there's just too many things going on in the city, and you know, the Zentarum, the Xanathar's Guild, everybody's carving out different you know, parts of the city, basically turn into some kind of like fucking Grand Theft Auto like crime spree thing going on with everybody. And he's saying there needs to be an organization that isn't beholden to some, you know, local crime boss or something. Instead, we serve a higher cause, and just kind of keep teasing but not really explaining to the players what this is all about. And frankly, I don't even know, and it's not even important what it's all about. It's just that, hey, you will get paid. I don't expect you all to work for free. It's kind of awkward. I think Keys in the Golden Vault, you get paid like a magic item of your choice after each mission or something, but also would pay them actual money. At least for the first couple sessions. And then Troll Skull Manor, I don't know exactly when I would unlock that. Maybe after like the first 2 missions, I think. That would be a proof for them. If we do Murkmire and we do Stygian Gambit, after we do those 2, maybe then he'll be like, all right, here's Troll Skull Manor, and then you guys can work on that. I wish there was more you could actually do here. Instead, there's just a bunch of information about the different factions, and then there's like little mini missions. This is all from Waterdeep Dragon Heist. There's little mini missions you can run for various characters. I guess I could use these as like encounters and things, but if I needed to like pad a session or something for some reason that wasn't in the middle of one of our heists, could almost turn Troll Skull Manor to its own little dungeon crawl, I guess, when they go through and try to figure out the haunted part. The problem is, by the time I give it to them, they'd probably be 3rd or 4th level. I mean, they'll be 3rd at the start, so they might be 4th level by the time they get Troll Skull Manor. So then do I turn that into its whole little dungeon with these like ghostly things happening? Basically, it's a bunch of traps and crap, and then they get to the end of it and realize it's just the bartender being a pissant for some reason. The picture's really good, though. So I think I will use basically Chapter 2 of Waterdeep Dragon Heist. See, the maps told you about the last prep. Finally found them. Oh, nice. Thank you. I'll have to check that out. Do you remember where you got the maps from, or these maps that you made? Because I do like to try to credit people, because I will be asked. Dragon Heist also given the base of operations before level 5. Looking for a way to do that. Right. Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at, right? Dragon Heist gives them level 2 or 3. Yeah. Right. Which would be early, right? That, like I'm saying, that would be... The only thing is I'm probably not going to give it to them right at the beginning, because I think that they would need to prove themselves technically. Like when they first get recruited, they'll be on like a probationary period where it's like, all right, I've seen what your potential is, what your skills are, but I need to see that you can work as a team and get the mission done. And then they'll just work out of basically his office, this private detective Tiger's Eye business, for at least, like I said, a mission or 2. And then I think I would give them Troll Skull Manor as a reward for like, all right, here's your full-fledged base of operations. Which, as I said, they might be level 4 before they get it, just because we're starting at level 3. And if they do 2 of these Keys to the Golden Vault missions, that's probably enough to get them to 5. Or sorry, to get them to 4. So that's not too much early. And then we can really just start the Bastion stuff. We want to do at level 4. I don't think that'll be too big of a deal. And, folks, you heard it here first. I will destroy their fucking Bastion. I will burn it to the fucking ground when we transition to Eve of Ruin. Because I think at that point, I don't know if we'll ever go back to Waterdeep. Because we will... we'll have the shocking reveal that like, oh shit, the last quest giver was actually Vecna himself, or the last person we hired us to do this mission, and Vecna will kill Trench in an epic battle, kill the players, burn down their whole thing. Like, it'll just be this awesome, like, Empire Strikes Back fucking moment. And then the start of that, the next session will be, which we can look at that for a second. So I think I need to remember to exit these because... All right, let me see if my music still works or if it doesn't. Hang on. Okay, it does. All right. So I think as long as I exit them, then everything still works. All right, so now we're going to look at Planescape. So my plan later on is, instead of shunting them into the... whatever the fuck happens in Evil Ruin where they get taken to the wizards who are trying to cast the wish spell. Instead, they will appear in the mortuary basement. Where is that location? There it is. This is from Planescape Turn of Fortune's Wheel, which is the Planescape release from 5th edition. And it's this map, which is very cool. One of my favorite locations, actually, from this adventure. Honestly, this adventure, I loved all the Planescape, the Sigil stuff, and then when they left it and had to go around and do all the Planescape stuff, that's when it kind of lost me, because it was not nearly as interesting. And I don't think I'm going to use any of that, frankly. It's just not... I want to jump into the Eva Bruin stuff. So what I think I'll do is I'll use this part where they wake up. I mean, it's literally like the opening of Planescape Torment. And you can use Mort. You can literally... I would probably just use... Which I hated this, that they didn't let you use Mort in... Turn of Fortune's Wheel. Instead, they gave you like a couple other characters, but I would probably let Mort accompany them because Mort's fucking awesome. God, I really need to play that game again. It's been over 20 years, 25 years probably since I played that. I have the original box for Planescape Torment. I played that back in the day with, like, when did it come out? Like Baldur's Gate 1 and Fallout 1 and 2 and all those. So I think it would be a great character to accompany them. It's kind of an Easter egg that he mentions he's still waiting for somebody, which is like literally the start of the plot of Planescape Torment. So we can run this. Now, this adventure is designed for 3rd level, so I would certainly have to scale things up because they'll be most likely 11th or 12th level by the time we get shunted here. So that'll have to be a lot more of a higher level situation. But this would not be more of a... This would be less of a dungeon crawl, more of just a what the fuck is going on. We're all fucked up. I can certainly get all their equipment and make sure they don't have any spell slots or anything. And put them like somewhere else and make them work for it or something. And then once they get out of that, there's a little bit of city encounters. We'll play around with how much we want to use of that. But the main goal is to make it to Fortune's Wheel, which is the casino here. Which, by the way, did you know Planescape had pretty good map art? Which is run by an Arcanoloth named Shemeska. And there's a weird plot in this adventure where, by the way, I guess I'm spoiling this adventure for people who were like, oh shit, I wanted to run this one, or I wanted to play this one. Like, sorry. I guess I'm going to be spoiling. By the end of this campaign, we're looking at what, 4 elements of 4 different adventures, right? Keys to the Golden Vault, Vecna Eve of Ruin, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and now Planescape Turn of Fortune's Wheel. So boom, there's your fucking connectivity stuff. Shemeska is an Arcanoloth who it runs the place. She's a crime boss. She's fucking awesome. I love this. Look at that. That's amazing. So I think she would be their point of contact. Maybe she's like Farancha's girlfriend or something cool. Like maybe she got ties and she's like, what? Vecna killed him? Man, fuck this. Like, I want to keep things like really... Even though it's multiversal, I think my players and I would really enjoy it if we kept the, like, crime gangster angle a little bit. Even though we're getting, like, way higher stakes and multiversal stuff, but just, you know, keep it personable. So I'm not even sure I'm going to use, like, Tasha and the fake Mordecai and all that kind of thing. I think this will be just more fun and a cooler angle to run. And plus, having their new home base basically be Fortune's Wheel, which is this crazy casino in Sigil, I think would be a really cool twist as well. And that would probably be just their new base of operations. And then from there, she will have the wherewithal and the resources to be able to send the party, and they're in Planescape, so they can, you know, go to those places. If I really wanted to add some stuff to it, I can make it a challenge to even find the portals to get to these other places. You can be like, all right, well, here's where we think, or maybe add some investigation to it. Like, okay, we need to figure out where... But by the way, the plot of Eve of Ruin is they have to assemble the Rod of 7 parts, and each of these 7 parts is in a different multiversal location. So one's in Eberron, one's in Orth, the Greyhawk location. One's in Ravenloft, one's in Krynn, which is Dragonlance. One is in Avernus. I forget how many that is, but there's one is in the Underdark, in the Forgotten Realms. So they're all spread apart. I don't remember if they start with one or not actually in their area. So her best interest would be just revenge. But of course, maybe she's got her own thing and wants to turn on the players at some point, kind of like Kaz does. And I still need to figure out where I want to introduce Kaz in all this, because I do want to use the vampire general of Vecna, and he needs to be a pretty important role. Maybe who's somebody who's like chasing the party, and the party doesn't know why. And then if he catches up to him, maybe he's I don't know. Is he trying to get the rod for himself? His motivations are weird, because I think instead of wanting revenge on Vecna, which would be, you think, his primary goal, instead he just wants to like usurp Vecna and take the power that Vecna's trying to do, which Vecna's trying to, I don't know, remake reality or something. Something villainous, I guess. I guess I could keep that the same. Also, I'm thinking about, we could do a time jump if we wanted to, because if the player's getting killed and they wake up at some point, in case I want to do anything from Dune Forgotten Realms where like things are really bad and Vecna's taken over, we could maybe do a little bit of a time jump there. And maybe an excuse of why Vecna's agents are a lot more powerful, especially if I want to do, that's probably a good idea, because the angle of Vecna only just now getting the Book of Vile Darkness, when the players steal it for him and then he kills them, and then how much sense does it make that he's immediately like, I guess if that's the last thing he needed, and then he's going to make his big spell or something. But maybe we'll create like a time jump there, and it's like, oh yeah, in the time that you guys were dead or whatever, or had taken to travel to your bodies and souls to Planescape for whatever reason, like it's been a year or something. Not like a huge time jump, not like, I don't know, like the 5-year snap that Endgame did or something, but like just maybe a year or some months or some amount of time that allowed Vecna's agents to kind of get their shit together. Maybe that makes more sense. Kind of, except he's not comic relief and incompetent, I think. See the Starscream to Vecna's Megatron. But character-wise, like functionality-wise, yeah, where it's like you're the right-hand man, but also scheming against him constantly. Although I think it was a little more serious for their case, because I think it was something to do with the sword. I'd have to look into the lore a little bit more. But I think Vecna was given a sword, Vecna. Kaz was given a sword, I think by Vecna, Sword of Kaz. And that sword, which is a magic item in Vecna Eve of Ruin that never shows up, which is insane. But the sword, I believe, is a sentient evil weapon that like can corrupt you. So I think it's like, it basically helped corrupt Kaz. Kaz is also a fucking vampire, so you know, he's kind of already corrupted. But there's good story stuff there we can use, and I keep thinking like, gosh, do I need to insert Kaz earlier in the story somehow? And then it could also be a cool like reveal that Kaz has been tracking Vecna or something for some reason. At one point, I even thought, okay, Kaz could be their handler for the Golden Vault, but that's playing too long of a game. Like they wouldn't, because my plan is not really have Vecna involved, because I think it'd be bullshit if he was there the whole time. Like, why is he fucking around with these low-level characters? Instead, it won't be until later when they do the Vecna Chapter 1 quest, the Return to Neverdeath thing, which again, it won't be until level 8 or so, and that's when Vecna gets his eyes on the party and says like, oh, these guys are, you know, they thwarted my plans, but they've also got these powers, and it'd be a good opportunity for them to be able to get something that if I did it myself, I would be immediately like seen by all these powers that be, and it would just be that much more challenging. And he doesn't have his book, and that's because he doesn't have his book, he wouldn't be able to have those, maybe his full power. So after that is when he starts basically being the person who's trying to get things done and gathering those secrets. Which the tricky thing about that is, I guess having run that The easiest thing might be to have that be their third to last mission they do. Maybe fourth to last, I guess. Because a Fair and the Concordant Express could definitely be for Vecna, because that could be getting information from the Traveler, or the Stranger, they call it. Party at Palace at Hall, I guess I could just, I don't know, change the reward to make it. It's the Fey one. So I guess some magic there could be for Vecna, basically. Or I could change that to be a Vecna thing. And then Fire of Darkness, obviously, the Book of Vile Darkness. So if I insert that Vecna chapter basically between where I would do like Shard of the Accursed and Heart of Ashes, which would be around level probably 9 actually at that point. Causes Vecna's general, then turned on him, cutting off his hand and eye. Yeah. There's gotta be, is there something I can do with the hand and eye thing? I don't know if the hand and eye are even involved in Eve of Ruin also, which seems weird. Even though both of them are items. But I haven't thought about what I can do with that. I don't want to introduce these items too early because that would give the game away too much. And I really want to keep it a surprise. Like the Book of Vile Darkness is going to be the surprising thing. Vecna, the Whispered One. Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. Oh. There's a Vecna lore thing in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Vecna's History, Cause and Vecna. Share similar even outlooks. Cause admired Vecna's sadism and thirst for power. Vecna valued Cause's ferocity and cruelty. By the time Vecna became a lich and the despotic ruler of an empire of the world of Orth, Cause was a leader of Vecna's armies, Lich's most trusted lieutenant. Cause pledged his life to Vecna, and Vecna gave Cause generous gifts. The Lich created the Sword of Cause for his lieutenant. This intelligent artifact of pure evil is meant to serve Cause unquestioningly, but the Sword soon developed other ideas. Over time, Cause and Vecna began disagreeing about strategies to expand the Lich's empire. Convinced Cause was more gullible than Vecna, the Sword urged Cause to kill and supplant Vecna. The Sword wanted nothing less than full control of Vecna's empire through Cause. Okay, so that's the Sword's motivation. Cause finally betrayed his liege. When he confronted Vecna in the Lich's tower, Cause killed Vecna. Before Vecna died, Vecna flung Cause across the multiverse. Cause lost the Sword of Cause in his flight. All that was left of Vecna after he died was one hand and one eye. Those eventually became artifacts known as the hand and eye of Vecna. In the aftermath of this battle, Cause transformed into a vampire. Oh, okay. He didn't become a vampire until afterwards. He became the ruler and prisoner of a domain of dread, which is Tovag, I believe. Oh yeah, there it says, called Tovag. Eventually, the dark powers whispered to Cause that Vecna had risen again, becoming an evil god of secrets and magic on Orth. Vecna's defeat of Cause grates on the warlord's ego. Okay, so Cause literally defeated Vecna when he was a lich. Ooh. But the sword made him evil. This is all interesting stuff. Cause aches to annihilate Vecna. Meanwhile, Vecna has been building up power, though the Lich yearns to finally destroy his former lieutenant. Ooh, they hate each other. It's good shit. I don't know if I like Vincent working for Vecna. I don't think I want to go that far. In other words, I don't necessarily want to corrupt the entire Golden Vault from the beginning. I think that's a little too like, gotcha, what a twist. I think it makes more sense narratively that, as I mentioned, this is all legit. Like, yeah, I want you, like the Golden Vault exists as this organization that tries to right wrongs and, you know, use operatives in different areas to, you know, help steal shit for people and like get dangerous things out of the hands of bad guys. I mean, it all sounds like the Harpers, but whatever. It's the Harpers, but taken on like a multiversal scale, I guess. And then I like Vecna's getting his hands on the Golden Vault and manipulating, because I think that's a cool thing that Vecna can do, is kind of work behind the scenes and manipulate to his own end once he becomes aware of the players doing their things, which will be during that first chapter, which won't be until like level 9 or so. But it'll still be a twist because, like I said, we'll still have like 3 full modules after that where they're thinking they're just doing their thing again, but it turns out all the things they're doing not all the things, but just those last 3 missions specifically are for Vecna. Yeah, I don't need to make the whole thing corrupt. Causes outright evil, but when it comes to Vecna, causes more of an ally to the party. Yes. Yes, which I think is such an interesting thing to introduce. I just don't know of a good way to do that because I'm kind of not doing the whole like Kaz is disguised as Mordenkainen, and that's why their wish spell didn't work, and he's there with the group until the very end, and then I think at the very end he steals the rod. I'm trying to remember what happens at the end of Vecna of Ruin. Or the party comes back with the final piece or something, but he's left with like most of the pieces or something. Taking out the other 2 wizards off screen, and then he's escaped to Pandemonium, whatever, because he already wants to basically take out Vecna and for some reason raise like a demon lord at the same time and use that to help take out Vecna, I guess. So if we want to use all that whole chapter of Vecna, of Eve of Ruin, then we are going to have to come up with a way to include Kaz as a major character, but I don't want to make him just show up and then have to dump all this lore at the party. It'd be nice if they have to figure it out who it is, which there is a really good third-party adventure called Traversing Tovag, which is from Dan Kahn, which is one of my favorite designers on the DM's Guild, and it's designed to replace the Ravenloft chapter of Eve of Ruin, which we both agreed is the weakest chapter. And that way it puts the party in the domain of dread of Kaz, and they learn more about him, and they get to explore that area. Now that one takes all of the stuff that happens in Eve of Ruin as canon, so it doesn't even have Kaz in it because Kaz is back pretending to be Mordenkainen. So I could maybe change that part of it a little bit further to suit my needs and actually put Kaz there, and thus the party could be there and learn that like, oh, this dreadlord of this domain has beef with our BBEG. Maybe we can use that in some way. That might be just the easiest way to do it. So I think we've figured out some important stuff early, right? We already knew about the Eve of Ruin connection to transition to that whole chapter for our higher level stuff, which good luck me for running high level D&D content. However, I talked to all of you about using stuff from Waterdeep Dragon Heist and not Spelljammer. Spelljammer is the one I forgot. That's in Eve of Ruin. Planescape, the Planescape adventure, Turn of Fortune's Wheel. How I want to use that one as the like transition into tier 3 play and have that become kind of their new base of operations and destroy their other one that they were using for the previous campaign. So it'll be a real big like, and you know, it may be because that's such a big story moment, and then there might be a time jump. We may and because that will sort of be the end of that campaign. I could see us taking a little bit of a break between that and the Eve of Ruin campaign and maybe do some more of these like mini adventures or something, depending on how long the time frame is there. We can play around with that a little bit. And then get that information from Dragon Heist with having the handler replaced by the Rakshasa, which I really think is a cool idea, and giving them Troll Skull Manor pretty early. Early being that they're still starting at level 3. And still keeping the Golden Vault as kind of what it is, but not painting it so much as this like really goody two-shoes, like Saccharin, like, I don't know, nicey nice organization full of philanthropists and priests and charity workers and stuff. Instead, like, make it like, nah, that's, I don't know. I just think my players have more fun with it if they're considered like you know, organized criminals, but they're serving a higher purpose that seems to be morally good. It's probably the way I would try to angle it. But I would kind of play it by ear and just see what their feelings are about it too. So try to work with them on how they feel about it. Obviously, they need to join the Golden Vault to progress this the whole campaign, but we'll try to figure out what their angles are and their motivation and stuff. And do we want to play with them having their own secrets? We did that in Rime of the Frostbane. We did not do that in Call from the Deep. So we could look at that. I think, especially this being a heist mission, it could be very interesting. And we could maybe take advantage of the fact that they could have some kind of secrets or faults or flaws or whatever that we could run with as well. All right, I think that's going to do it for this crafting the Golden Vault. So thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this content, as always, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Thank you to the patrons for helping support this channel and making these live streams possible. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocide, Roleplay, Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Louis Spuds, Ward, Unimo, LC, Tom, the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Sasha, and John, and gold patrons RPG Paper Crafts, Pretty Boy, Newman, Dead Lizard Lions, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. See you on Thursday for This Week in D&D.